Hello everyone. It's time to go through a couple of things for the week. What we're going to talk about this week is actually going to be a little bit about Visual Studios, which is the IDE that we're going to be using. Now, IDE is called Integrated Development Environment. Essentially, it's where we write all of our code and stuff to make programs do what they need to do. Since we are using Visual Studios, you should hopefully already have that installed at this point. If you don't, get it installed. Now, when you install a program, this program in particular, it will ask what things you want. You really just need the C++. I think I've already included a Visual Studio setup, but you can also go to the website if you need a Mac version or some other version of it. Since this is only the Windows version. So once you got it installed, it should look a little bit something like this, depending on what you've set up. And this is basically your start screen where it's going to be when you use it. Now, how we're going to create our projects. You can continue without any code whatsoever and just mess around with that if you want to, but generally we're going to go to create a new project here. Or you're going to open one that's already there, if you've got a project you need to look at. So I'm going to go to create a new project, and I can create a number of different things here depending on what you've installed. You'll see I've got everything from Python to a couple of little Epic and Unity engines and such. But what we're looking for are these things that are probably going to be near the top. An empty project basically just gives you nothing to start with. You just kind of have to do all that on your own. Console app is what we're going to make, and then we might mess around with the Windows desktop wizard app thing. It just depends. But for now, we would make a console app. That's how you'd make most of what we're going to do in this class. So you just simply have to click on that and hit next. And what it's going to do from that point is ask you to name it. Now, I'm going to say how I name things, why I name them the way I do, and why you should follow suit. I mean, you don't necessarily have to. It's entirely up to you. So let's say the date was, I don't know, January 1st, right? I would start with _01, _01, 20, whatever the year is, 24, 29, whatever. And then I do this. Now I'm going to use underscores because you can't really have a dash in a name. It has to be an underscore. You also can't, most IDEs and programs in general don't like a name to start with a number. So I do this. Now you don't have to put the date there. I do this whenever I make a program, simply because it keeps everything in order, particularly for a class like this. Sometimes it's nice to have the progression in order. Now you could, of course, do that by right-clicking and sorting and Windows and such. But this would automatically do that for you without you having to do any extra steps or anything. Plus, it would give you this is what we did this week, this is what we did that week, very clearly visible. So I usually encourage people to put whatever the day's date is in front of it. Again, you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. And then I put the name, for example. Intro, or whatever I need here. So, and this location is where it's going to save. So in this case, it's going to save in this source repos. You can change that to whatever you want. Just make sure you save it to a place that you can actually get to. The worst thing you could do is save it some random location and not be able to find it when you need to turn it in. So you can actually click here and change it to your documents, your flash drive. My default is here. If you want to leave it at the default, that's fine, as long as you can get to that folder. That's perfectly fine. If you want to put it in your documents, if you want to put it on your flash drive or something, that's fine too. Just make sure you can get to it. Now, I come here and I just hit create, and it will actually create my project. You'll see it's got the little console app stuff up here. And I just go to create. And voila, our project will get made. and we're ready to actually make stuff. Now this will give you the blank default. So essentially, you'll just be able to go ahead and start coding stuff as long as you know where everything is. And that's essentially it. There's a couple of other little icons and stuff up here, like this will run your program, for example, or you can press Control F5. Every time we run, it will save, so you don't have to worry about constantly going to file, save, file, save. It will automatically do that once you hit play. Now, I can, of course, save this in other places, but if you go here to save, you will save just the one file, not the whole project. So generally, when you create a project, it's where it is. If you go up here and try to save just one of these little files, that's just that one file. So, pardon, my phone's going a little nutso with lots of little messages here. Let's see if I can mute that a little for everybody. There we go. That should fix that. All right, so that's essentially it. Now, whenever we write programs, what we do is we write what's called code, source code. This source code is something that we can kind of read and understand. And you may not be able to understand everything that's on the screen right now, but that's the source code. Now, once we have this source code written, what happens is this IDE will compile it. There's a compiler, the actual program that is essentially a translator. It'll translate what I write into machine language, bytecode that the machine will understand. And once that happens, the machine can understand it, the machine can run it. And then it will do whatever it is we tell it. So we're not writing explicitly in machine language. We're writing source code that we can kind of understand, something that's a little easier for us to understand. You don't want to write in just binary or bytecode or anything like that. That would be insanely difficult. Not impossible, but still insanely difficult. Just to give you a sense of binary, I'd need like 8 numbers for every single letter or thing I wanted to do. If you were doing assembly language, you would have to do like probably several lines of commands to do like a simple moving something here or add something there, or something you can do with a single line in some higher level code like C++, Java, or Python or something. So we decided to use this kind of higher level language here that is easier for us to understand. And the compiler does all the heavy lifting and translating so the computer can understand it. Now, we don't have to understand the other side of that. We just have to know what things we're going to write and what they do when we write them. So that's where we go from here. And we'll do that here in the next video, actually. So if you have any questions or comments, or you have some difficulties getting this installed, feel free, ask. I'm more than happy to help. But it shouldn't be anything too difficult aside from running the program, selecting the things you want, and then just letting it install. All right, that's the video.